Today is July 22nd, 2017. This is the Etowah Valley Historical Society's Oral History Project, and I'm Sherry Henshaw. I'm here with members of the 1962 Cartersville girls basketball team. Welcome to Jerry and Jan and Diana. Glad to have you here today.
Thank you.
Glad to be here.
And I'm going to let you ladies introduce yourselves and tell a little bit more about where you're from.
I'm Diana French Teague. I'm from Cartersville, Georgia. I was a senior on the championship 62 basketball team.
I'm Cherry Parrish Gladden, and I'm one of the Parrish girls, of course. And I've been here all my life. And I was a sophomore on the 1962 championship team.
And my name is Jan Bennett Edwards, and I was a junior the year we won the state championship, and I'm a lifelong resident of Bartow County also.
Great, great. Well, we're so glad to have y'all here today, and we've got a show coming up that just brought this to mind. I heard this story, and I was not aware of it. I grew up in Cartersville, and I was not aware that two local teams had played for the state championship in the past, and not only that, but it was the girls team. And I can tell you that I was really excited when I heard that, and I wanted to uncover this story and tell more about it. So I'm so excited to have you here, all of you. But James Naismith created basketball in December 1981, and then women's basketball became one of the few sports that developed in tandem with its men's counterpart. So this early on in the late 1800s became very popular for women as well. And it began at Smith College, one of the sister schools up there in New England, and traveled across the country and became extremely popular, as we all know, because we all love basketball, right?
Right.
And it's a natural that women would fall in love with this sport. And in 1896, the first intercollegiate game was played between Stanford and California, so it had made it all the way from the East Coast out to the West Coast by that time. In 1970, we know we played a different style of basketball. The women were considered, it was too strenuous. It was actually started as a sport to give women exercise. But women back then, it was too strenuous for us to play full court. Oh my goodness.
No.
So we might do a little bit, I guess, is what they thought. So we had some different rules. But in 1970 was the first time that it was officially adopted. As we know, we were talking earlier, women still didn't technically, it wasn't full-fledged all across the country by that time. But that's when the women started to adapt more of the men's rules at that time and played a different kind. But we want to talk more about how y'all played ball in just a moment. And then Title IX, which didn't exist in your era, that's something else. Title IX, which encouraged and helped women so much, actually happened in 1972. So in 1973 was the first time that women were offered college scholarships. And of course we know some from Cartersville went on to have college scholarships in basketball. And I'm sure every one of you all would have gotten one. I'm absolutely sure.
I'm sure.
Well, we're talking about state champions here. So what I want to do is start and let you all start just telling us a little bit about, before we jump right into the championship games, the very interesting aspect of this, one is that you all played a local team, Cass High, for the state championship. So that was very interesting. It's people that were right here in this same county, but you also, it's interesting that these local schools all kind of had these young women that excelled so much in this sport. So tell us a little bit about growing up in this area and why you all were kind of attracted to basketball in high school.
I actually didn't start basketball until I was a freshman, and once I found out about it, I was gun-ho. I mean, basketball was my life for 4 years. I would even not date during the basketball season. And if things didn't go my way, well, that was just tough because I wasn't going their way.
Oh, wow.
But there was just no other sports. We only had the basketball and tennis.
Was the only girl sports.
Only girl sports.
That's what I. That's
The only one.
Very interesting. Well, Cherry, what about you? How do you feel about basketball? How did you fall in love with it?
I started playing when I was in middle school, and I had sisters that played. So, you sort of follow in the footsteps, if that's what you're trying to do. Well, then, when we got into high school, it was friendship, and it became an involvement. It became an activity to do. And we just had a good time doing it, and that made a difference with who we played with and who we grew up with. And it just became part of life. And I had 2 younger sisters that played. And so all of us have played basketball for Cartersville High School. I think that the main focus on this was just the love for the Cartersville, just being a Purple Hurricane and playing the team, playing the game, and being one of the sports teams that did well.
There's a great sense of pride.
Yeah, there is.
Here, yes.
There is, and people still today will say, "Oh, you on that state champion basketball team?" Like that. And I'm thinking, "Oh God," they look at me like I shouldn't be walking around or something like that. But anyway, it's good memories. Good memories.
Absolutely. Jan, what about you? I know y'all are one of the very first championship teams, but how did you come to be a part of this with these 2 here?
Well, I started in middle school also playing ball. But to back up just a little bit, Jane, her sister, and I were best friends. We started to be best friends when we were in elementary school. And I didn't live in the city limits. I lived out in the country then. Still do. But I was a permanent guest every summer. Is that not correct?
Correct.
I mean, I was one of them. I just didn't look like them. So
You meaning no red hair?
that's right.
You were one of the Paris girls.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's how it kind of got started, because Linda played, and then Jane and Cherry were going to play, so it was just natural that I played too. So
Right.
we started all together over in the old gym over there.
Gym.
Old gym on Cherokee Avenue, playing ball. None of us knew how to play, but we played. I actually started out as a forward over there.
Oh, okay. Well, that's another thing. Tell me a little bit about the positions you all played, what your specialties kind of were on the team. I know that all of you had some great skill sets kind of added to the team, and the positions that you all were responsible for on these teams.
Well, I played forward, and I was only 5'3". My other teammates that were forwards, Glenda Harris was about 5'9", as well as Janie was about 5'8". Janie Paris was about 5'8". And I played forward, and we mostly played one player out, myself, and 2 back. And that was because Janie and Glenda were left and right-handed. So our plays came out double. If Glenda got the ball on this side and she came to the center, she'd go back and hook to the right. If she was going to go across, then she'd be playing on that side and come across and hook that way. So we had those plays going on, and with them being both left and right-handed, it was really great. Mainly, I did not shoot out as far as the girls do now, especially in the college basketball that I watched. I took all the extra foul shots, because if a guard got fouled on the other end, then we got a foul shot. And so that was my expertise, mainly the foul shots. Of course, I did shoot out some and got points too. And I must add, there was myself, my sister Pat was redheaded. She played guard with Cherry.
Yes.
Cherry's redheaded. Janie's the forward. So we had 4 redheads out of 6.
Ooh.
And nowadays, if we could have known what we do now, we could have got Jan to dye her hair red.
Right. Part of it.
And
Glenda too.
Right, that would have been a huge intimidation factor, I think.
Yeah,
I
that would have
think-
been great.
I think so too. Well, Cherry, what about you?
I played guard. I'm like Jan. I started off as a forward in middle school, but then I moved to guard, and I guess somebody saw something I didn't see. And I don't know, I think playing with Pat and I were really good friends, and Jan, so it was just like a trio, I knew every move. We knew each other's moves, where they were going to be. We played zone a lot, defense, and that was something we were really good at. I think stealing the ball, we were quick, Even though I was a little bit bigger than Pat, a lot bigger than Pat. Pat was very small,
Thin.
but she could, she could get in there and get that ball. And Jan had long arms, and she could guard anybody. She could take care of anybody. We never worried about the back.
That's right.
Because she was there. And I do think that was the thing. We just knew how each of us were going to move.
Right.
And I think that's what I enjoyed. And we were good dribblers. We were good defense. I'll be real honest with you. I thought we were very good defense. A defense.
We were good. We were good dribblers because we practiced.
Yeah.
We had to practice that dribbling.
Well, tell me about practice and about your coach. I know y'all are. Tell me what it was like to be a girl on that team and going to practice, and how often did you have to practice, or what was that like? Was he tough?
I think, did we not just start practicing the sixth period of the school?
We didn't have PE sixth
Right,
period.
right.
We always had basketball practice
And we didn't practice all that long because the boys practiced behind us.
behind us.
And what I thought about was the conditioning of the kids that I'm here about now. I mean, it's over the top.
Yeah.
We didn't have that. We ran the gym steps, we ran laps.
Yeah.
We had to get it all in about an hour and a half, and that was it.
Yes, that was. We had no weightlifting or anything, where
Any
they
kind of
start
training.
early or any type of training like that.
Well, Coach Reeves actually made us play volleyball in the off season to help. You remember that?
Yes.
We had to play volleyball. I mean, it was a must. He made us play to stay fit, somewhat fit. Let me put it that way. And the only team I ever remember playing was the deaf school over at Berry. Do you remember that? He took us over there and made us play a volleyball game with them.
Well, Jan, I know one thing you had told me was that one of your strengths was, did you say you could dribble with both hands?
Both hands, yeah.
So, and you were the one that usually.
I was inbounded the ball to Cherry or Pat, and I had to be sure I got it in.
Now, see, that was part of the mystique of it, trying for the guards to get the ball back over the center line, because we were playing 3 guards, 3 forwards. We didn't cross the center line.
Exactly.
So
That's different now, right?
We get up to the line, and man, it would be
6 ladies,
fight.
everybody just going for the ball to get
Right.
it over.
That's a center
Right.
line, yeah.
That game was always that was kind of the key point of that game, is getting it to the line and then over the line to your.
And you only have so much time on the
Right.
clock. If you didn't.
How much time did you have? Most people don't have any idea about what that was like.
5 seconds, something like
No, it was
that.
longer than
I
that.
know.
I really can't remember how long.
I don't remember how long, but nowadays when they play, of course, sometimes they'll guard the forwards coming up the court, and sometimes they'll put on a full court press. Well, this was a full court press
We
all
would
the
do
time,
all the time.
unless the
Yeah.
other team was so bad.
Yeah.
Right.
We didn't feel
Right.
that way.
So when you inbounded the ball, I mean, the first thing they do is put on a press on you guys, because
They're
if you-
forwards.
If you didn't get the ball across the line, you had to
Right.
turn it over. You turned it over, right?
Or they stole it away
Or
from
they
the
stole
away
it
from
you.
Yeah.
So being able to do that and move that ball around was key.
Yes.
So, the other thing that was different about that is you did develop certain skill sets, because some folks were so strong on defense, and then you had your key folks that were great shots that could shoot real well. Who were those folks on your teams that were invaluable to you all as far as shooting? I've heard somewhere that some of the scoring is different now than it used to be. That has changed somewhat.
I think 3 points. We didn't have 3
No,
points.
we didn't have
back
3
then
points.
at all. And you could shoot half court, and if you got it in, you're still going to get 2 points. You weren't going to get the 3. But I think they were all. Diana had that set shot that she was good at,
Yeah,
and the free throws. I mean, you could just hear that net stripping. The net would strip. And to watch Glenda and Janie do their
they were
crossovers,
unstoppable
it was like.
almost.
That was just something to see, I thought. But I think we were grateful that we had such good forwards.
Oh, thank you.
And y'all were probably glad we had good defense,
We
because
definitely
we could get you
were.
the ball. Maybe.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Well, those hook shots were almost unstoppable when they were on. I mean,
Right.
when they were on and were hitting those things, they were unguardable.
You can't
I
guard a
don't know
hook
that I
shot.
could have guarded either
Right.
one of them.
And that's what those two did.
Yeah,
was
that's
those,
what they did.
Those hook shots. And I guess since one was left-handed and one was right-handed, they,
The crossover.
If
Oh,
you tried to
wow.
guard them, you always fouled them. You always would foul them, you know.
see, that's key. You start to see these championship teams and you see these little glitchy things that are really hard for people to deal with. And so those are the kind of things that you can carry on all the way to the winner's circle, more or less.
We didn't shoot out it as far as they do now.
No,
we didn't shoot. At the top of the
Well, I
circle,
didn't, you did.
the top of the circle would be considered far for us.
Right.
And mostly that would just be me, and I probably wouldn't shoot that much at the top of the circle.
But you could.
Well, I could, but if I had to do over again, I would be a lot better. I know that.
Well, yeah, and you didn't get 3 points for it, like you were just saying.
No.
You just got 2.
I
so-
love the 3-point game now.
That's something.
Great. It gives the smaller people a chance. Anybody that can hit, you got a chance to win.
That's right.
That's good.
And I liked, just brain dead all of a sudden. Just hold on, and I'll tell you what I like. That now you cannot freeze the ball for longer than so many seconds. When we played, you could freeze it for as long as you wanted to. Do you remember that? You could
Well,
freeze the
they had
ball.
to come
They have
after
to
you.
come after
They have
you.
to come after you.
But
They
it
were made to
wasn't-
come after you.
It wasn't like,
Right.
okay, 45 seconds, you know, you had to do something. You had to, I mean, I think I've seen us freeze it 2 or 3 minutes at a time, but it was, that is something you don't do anymore.
Do you remember, didn't we have a lot of jump balls on the circle within the, not the middle circle, but the other circle?
Yeah.
We had jump balls
Right.
there, which they don't have now.
Right,
we
it
did,
all
yeah.
depends on where
It got
it
tied up.
got, where it got tied up.
Yeah.
If it got
Right.
tied
But
up.
see, that would be a big difference, because when you did the jump ball, if I was jumping against somebody a lot taller than me, you know, of course, we're going to
Yeah.
lose. You know,
But-
it was another,
But now,
Thing
if
that
they
could
have
happen.
a jump ball, a lot of times the official will just say who gets
right,
the ball.
you
Right,
take
you don't
turns
have to
taking the
worry
jump
about
balls.
Right. And if you had somebody tall, that was always, I understand Cass had a very tall basketball player
Nancy,
that sometimes would do that I guess was the key person for
she
jump
was.
ball.
She was.
So let's talk a little bit though before we go into. I'd love for y'all to talk about your honorable opponents at some point, but I wanted to talk a little bit just about ball in general. Let's get back to your coach, because I know y'all had some deep affection for him. Tell us a little bit about your coach. Any stories you want to tell about him?
There's too many, I think.
I think Coach Reese came, I know he was here when I was in the 8th grade, and I wasn't playing basketball then, but that's when I first met him, and I liked him right off. And he came from Kentucky, and of course Kentucky's known for their basketball. And I believe he took the Cartersville boys to the state championship the first year he was here.
63.
It was, several people that we can remember was on that team. And then Coach only coached my sophomore year and my senior year. So back then, girls' sports, they didn't want us too much.
No.
I really think, and I've talked to Mrs. Reeves quite a bit and still do all the time, and Coach Reeves had a real soft spot for the girls after we started
Right,
winning.
right.
And through the years, you know, he had many years. I don't know what year he left Cartersville, but he had some good teams.
I
yeah.
cannot remember when he left. I tried to remember, and I think he might have coached one year when Martha played, because Martha said he doesn't know who I am. He doesn't know my name. He thinks I'm Cherry or Jane or Linda. And Martha said, he has no clue. I said, well, he knows you're one of us. So
Right.
But Coach Reese, he was a funny coach. He was short, had flat top, you know, and those little legs go like that. And I've seen him go up to, well, he even did it to me, and probably y'all too, go up and stand in front of you if you're sitting in that chair, and he'll jerk you up, and then he put you back down and says, no, can't go in. You know, he would get upset about something in the game. And, but I really think he did. He fell in love with us, I think, because we showed him that we could play. We respected him. You know, we laughed at him because he was funny. He was funny.
He was a good shot. He would shoot sometimes.
Yeah,
with
he
us.
was.
He was a good
Uh-huh,
shot.
he
He'd
was.
shoot with 2 hands.
But we had a reunion for him back in
Probably about
1990
90,
something.
91, I think it was, 91 or
We invited,
no, it was after '98.
91, was it?
I
was
can't
after 98.
remember, but it was with all the people that had him for a coach.
Yes.
We invited, it was up at the country club, And, we thought, what are we doing? Who's going to come to this? It was packed.
Packed.
It was
And we
packed.
had every year from the year he started when he won that, went to the state championship with the boys. And we had a blast.
It was fun, and it was like, I think he was amazed that many people were going to show up and pay, just say how much they loved him and pay their respect. It was just he touched a lot of people in his own way. In his own way.
I think coaches tend to underestimate their impact, for good or bad.
Right.
And I think a coach that instills teamwork in folks and unity, that's something that people carry throughout their lives. If they've felt a part of a team, they always have that feeling of what that's like. And it builds things in you that you just don't get otherwise, I think. It's interesting. Let's talk a little bit about, we talked about the coach and some of the stories. Did you have any funny stories, like when y'all went to Macon, you traveled on the bus a lot. Did you all travel with the boys? Did y'all share a bus with the boys? Did you have your own bus?
Oh, yes.
No, we didn't have our own bus.
We had to sit with the girls going down. Going to any game, you sat with the girls. And it was the boys, the girls, and the cheerleaders. I mean, we all went on one bus. We were
Right.
not
Yeah.
large teams.
Right.
Yes.
But then on the way back, you just sort of could mix it up,
Right.
but no contact. But it was just funny now because they have these big luxury buses. I think a lot of them do, which is fine. I think it's great. I'm envious that we didn't have that. We were hot and But
Cold.
yeah,
It was
we
cold.
did. It was
Cold
cold. You'd have
in
to wear a
winter.
blanket during the winter sometimes because it would get cold on the
The weather
bus.
would get
Right, on the old school buses, those,
yeah.
you were cold or you were hot, and you had your windows down or your windows
windows
up.
up.
Yes, absolutely. And usually, I can remember because I rode with the girls and boys both back in my years. There was usually cheers or songs or something going on. You tried to pep yourself up on the way down there, and then it was a lot different on the way back. Everybody was.
Well, we would leave early when we went to like Valley Point and
Oh, yeah.
some of those northern schools north of here. We'd have to stop and eat. You remember stopping
True.
usually after the game.
On the
We'd
way
coming
home.
back, they wouldn't let us eat going
Well,
home.
look, like the furthest school, I hadn't thought about that. How far did y'all have to go sometimes?
Well, where was Valley
Valley
Point?
Point, I think, was the
We
the
went
farthest away
up
that I can
around
remember.
Chatsworth somewhere.
Oh, okay, near Chatsworth. But that would take a good
played-
portion of the
We
day.
played
Right.
We played Pickens County. That-
We played a lot closer to home than they're playing
Oh,
right
yes.
now in the region they're in now. I mean, the schools
yeah.
are going an hour and a half, 2 hours away.
Rockmart,
We didn't go that far.
We were
Rockmart,
just-
Carrollton.
Right in our area, I guess you say. Our region was the north part of 3A.
North part of
There was
3A.
north and there was south.
Okay.
And we stayed in that little northern part.
So you were 3A, that was your division, in the northern
In the
part.
northern
And then there
part.
was the southern part.
Southern part.
Okay.
Those southern girls were tough.
Yeah, they were big too.
Dallas.
But see, we didn't have but about 400 in our high school the year we won, in the whole high school.
Okay. So the A division was the smaller schools, but
Right.
Cassville was a smaller school at that same
Yes.
time.
Yes.
They
Yes.
were in the same division as well.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about, one of the things I want to ask you, did you, we talked about dribbles a little bit. That was something I thought was interesting. I'm looking at some of my list here. Did you all, it says, how many dribbles were you allowed before you had to pass or shoot? Was that something that affected you all? Were you able to dribble as much
We
as
could
you
dribble
needed
in
to?
circles
Yeah,
if we
you
wanted
needed
to.
to.
So dribbling was a real asset to have on this
Right,
team.
right.
Early on, as it evolved, women mostly used to just have to kind of dribble a little bit and then pass.
Right,
but
right.
as you all, by the time it got to you all, you were much more able to really use that skill set and really play with the ball a lot more.
Well, the guard's job, after a shot was made or the ball was stolen on our end, our job was to get it across that line. And we had so much time to do that. And a lot of times it was hard. If you were playing a really good team, they were on you like full court press.
Right, right. Well, another thing that I think is interesting, we were talking about the scores. Did you have high scoring games? Were those so they stayed fairly lower scoring.
Right.
Those seem to vary a lot between men's and women's basketball at one point. And then as they got more similar, that changed somewhat. So But that's another thing. Sometimes you would see low-scoring games in the past, and then as women got to have a more of a men more similar to the boys,
Yes.
those scores kind of went up more. Some of the early ones were like 3-2.
No,
So in basketball, I was like,
We did a little bit better.
No,
than
we weren't that much.
we were a little bit better.
That was
than
way,
That was
way
back.
back.
Yeah. Just a little bit better.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so, what about referees? Do y'all have a good
Oh.
referee story? Some of my favorite things are like,
I loved all my referees.
My father and mother would always be at the games, and they sat up in the balcony, and my daddy voiced his opinion a lot of times, but he never got thrown out or anything. He just took up for us.
Yeah.
He'd just say they're fouling them. They're fouling
Yeah.
they're fouling
my
our girls.
They're fouling my daughter. But
Let me tell you a story. She had long hair. I mean, it must have been down to hair. And she always wore a French twist when we played ball. And she had that thing wound up and flattened out in the back. And it's a good thing because she was on the floor most of the time. And her head would hit that floor. You could hear it. And that,
So you had that
and
cushion
that,
back
that
there.
bun back there was a cushion. You know, I mean, she was a tough person.
I think
out
Jane
there.
was the same way. Jane had one too because she was bad to be on the floor.
Yeah,
Oh, Jane was.
but they were
yeah.
scrappers. They'd
Um,
scrap you for the, you know, they were going to fight you for that ball.
well, that's the best thing to have on defense.
Yes.
It really is. So.
I remember, excuse me for interrupting, but there was Clyde Charles. He was one of the
Yes,
local
yes.
referees, you know, and ended up being mayor.
Fred Castle.
Fred Castle, J.W. Chastain, Warney Bennett
Yes.
was one, so you knew them. You know, they had
Yeah,
children that played.
yeah,
Some of them had children that played for Cass, you know, that type of thing. But J.W. Chastain to me was, about third quarter, he'd walk up to me and he'd say, I'll foul you out. And he'd walk away
Really?
and I'd be, oh my God. And I didn't foul a lot. And I thought, what's he going to do? You know, but he was so funny doing that. He'd get tickled about it, you know. But they were enjoyable. You know, you got mad at them and
Right.
looked at him and said, I didn't do that. What are you calling that one? But you know, you had more of a relationship, I think, with them now that they, you know, they
Well,
aren't
we knew who they were.
Yeah. Good or bad, I don't know.
You knew where
if that
they
was good or
lived,
bad.
didn't you? Yeah. Well, and you did tend to see the same ones year after year
Right,
because people that did that would come back the next year and the next year
Oh,
and
yeah.
kind of had a circuit that
Right.
they'd work. I always think it's interesting though because there's usually some great referee stories, some odd things that tense moments that happened with key things, and I always want to ask with that because we've had some, you know,
Yeah.
the years that we played. So.
I remember Jane, I think it was at home, Janie and one of the guards and Janie was forward, they went after the ball and ended up on the floor. And, you know, there they are, the referee's trying to get them off. Well, Jane was a full girl, you know. And Diana's sister, Pat, she was looking around, she walked over and she kicked that girl that Jane was on top of. And I thought, God, she turned around and walked off. Nobody ever saw her because they were trying to separate. And you know, these redheads had a little bit of a temper more
Yeah.
than these redheads. We weren't quite up to where they were with temper. But I got so tickled at her that game, I thought, oh my God, she's going to get thrown out.
But
Nobody saw.
She didn't get
They
caught.
didn't show it. They were just trying to get those two apart.
That's funny. That's funny. Well, and we talked about how you travel. What about fans? So you talked about your dad. Were there ever any fans that in any of your games or did y'all ever have any?
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Cass and Cartersville.
Those what we call those intense rivalries. Right, like Georgia and Tech. So
When we
Cass,
won, when we
Cartersville
won
game.
the region game that year, there was almost a riot on the court. You remember that?
Tell us about that.
At the end of the game, that was the region game, wasn't it? Yes, that year.
I don't remember
No,
that.
no. Well, that must have been the next year, was it?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I can remember though.
You remember they had to have the sheriff's department.
I remember being scared going out the
Yes.
cash gym.
It
That
was.
they were
That
just
must have
like,
been
It was
after I
at
graduated.
Cass. It was at Cass.
but you know, I think it was. There was a big rivalry, but you had a lot of fan rivalry
Yes.
and parent
Rivalry.
rivalry.
Oh, hot.
And you know, the players, yeah, we had it, but I think they stirred it up more
That's right.
than we did, and it was sort
She's
of
right.
fearful sometimes.
Yeah.
Right.
It really was.
Well, see, that Cassville had beat us twice during the season.
Yes.
We played each team twice, and so they beat us those 2 games. So then we won sub-region, and then you turn around and play region like 2 nights
Yes.
later.
Yeah.
We had to play them again, and we beat them again.
So they didn't even have time to cool off.
No, no.
And they had already anticipated with those early wins that they had the edge this year.
And
Yeah.
we thought they might too.
But you proved them wrong at that time, right?
And
Right.
then another team was Rockmart.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they were
Man,
tough. They would
they
beat
were.
you to death.
They were, all of them were scrappers, weren't they?
They were.
I mean, they would come after you.
They had a girl named Sandra Ray.
That's
Right.
right.
Redheaded.
Redheaded.
Yeah.
And she was one of the best forwards I've ever seen.
Yes,
she Right. was.
I mean, she really was. She had ball control. She could shoot. She could do just about everything. And I mean, I always enjoyed, but yet when we came time to play, it was just like do or die.
Yeah.
And afterwards, you talked to her. I saw her out on the tennis courts one time. I was playing Alta, and I looked and I thought, God, that looks just like Sandra Ray over there from Rockmart. And it was. She was on a team, and they were up there playing. So there are certain people that stand out that you don't
Right.
forget about, and she is definitely.
We
one of
had
them.
we played Cedartown, and you remember the girl named Bergdorf?
Bergdorf. Yes.
Oh man, she
Man.
was tough.
She was bigger
tough.
than Nancy Hemphill.
She
at
was
Cass.
big.
She was. She was tall.
And
Now-
Nancy Hemphill was
About
6,
six
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
probably
6'1",
almost
6'2", something
Yeah.
like that.
and this one was bigger.
She
She
taller.
was
lighter.
big. Yeah, we didn't play Cedartown all the time. I think maybe we just played them one time. We played over at Cedartown. I got 32 points that game.
Yeah.
That was my best ever game. I have to say
So glad
that.
you remembered that.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
Yeah. Hey.
Oh, that's
Go for it.
awesome. Well, let's move on into, let's talk a little bit about moving toward the championship then. So we're moving towards Macon then, and how that starts. Just tell us, you've already told us a little bit about the tension that is building with Cass. Now, is this, I know there were 2 years running, Cass actually won a state championship one year against Cartersville. Is that right?
No, we
63.
lost. They won the state championship in '63. We lost at the first round of state
Oh,
that
okay.
year.
So you went to state, but you didn't
Right.
play them for the
We did not end
for
up
the
playing
title.
them for the title.
So, but y'all were both
At state, yeah.
At state. So then the year '62 is the one we want to focus on
Right.
then right now, and that is when you both made it to the final game.
Right. I think Jan knows the first opponent was
The
that
first
state.
opponent was Winder Barrow, wasn't it?
Right.
Or Bacon County.
Right.
These were.
One of the ones at state, and we only beat them by 2 points.
Okay, and then after the first game, we were scouting the second team,
Yeah.
and that was Cook County.
and they were undefeated.
Oh, I was watching that game. I was sick
And
to my
still gives
stomach.
me
I
cold
thought
chills to
we
see
will
them play.
never beat them.
They were all my height.
Big girls.
So after the game, I was the captain, and Coach came up to me and said, "Do you want to go out to eat, or do you want to bring something into the rooms?" And me being the basketball, you've got to do everything we can to win. We need to bring it into the rooms, Coach. So we had crystals. So big deal. That was big because we didn't have a crystal in
Yeah.
Well,
Cartersville.
that's true.
Okay, so we go to bed that night. The next morning, Coach Reeves, we get up. He takes us down to a banquet room, and we have one basketball. And he proceeds to tell us what we're going to do for our plan to beat these people, which I was glad to hear because I was scared to death this was it for me because I'm the senior. This is going to be
Yeah.
my last game, whatever game we don't win. So we walked through the plays. We got to the tournament. And they were expecting us to play 2 back and 1 up. So Coach Reese put Janie back, he put Glenda over here, he moved me over here. Before they knew it, I already had like 3 baskets, 6 points, 6 or 8 points. And I don't know why they didn't adjust, but it gave us the jump we needed, and we won the
We
game.
won, and won
And then later
big
on,
time.
we switched back to our other thing. But they didn't know. They weren't even guarding me, and I was just sitting there at the end of the foul shot, shooting fouls.
And I was sick. I was started coming down with
Oh,
something,
yeah.
but I didn't tell anybody. And so when I went into that game, my temperature was 102.
Oh, my goodness.
That's dedication.
102.
And I had just about superhuman strength. I mean, I took every rebound that came off that backboard. That's about the only thing I remember about the game. And after it was over, I passed out. No, seriously.
Wow.
Didn't okay, so that was it. We won the second game.
Yeah, but that's where we just beat them to death. They were stunned.
Yeah,
They were stunned.
We
And
beat
they
them
were
by 20
undefeated.
points.
They were
This was the undefeated team that
Right.
you all came in with a brand new plan.
Yeah.
That wasn't even something you normally did during the
Right.
year,
No.
and just blew them out. And you had 102.
Yeah, and I remember this, I was walking to the dressing room, and I passed out, and Mrs. Wooten, who was there, she was a PE teacher, and she was there, and she came over, and I remember her patting me in the face, and they took me to the emergency room there in Macon, and Coach Reese, I can remember him saying, "Can she play tomorrow? Can she play tomorrow?"
That was important.
And the doctor was saying, "Well, we don't know yet."
Did they give you fluids back then?
No,
They didn't.
they sent me back to the hotel, and Bert Caswell, who was our, what would you call
I
him?
don't know.
He
Mascot?
was
No, he was-
mascot, or
no.
I don't know. He sat by my bed, and Mrs. Wooten sat by my bed all night long and plied me with antibiotics, and I played for the Cass game.
Wow.
Okay, so
You
now
wouldn't
we're
have missed it.
I wouldn't have missed it.
You wouldn't have missed
They-
it.
they would
No,
have to-
do or die.
now we're up to the Cassville game.
Yes.
And the people in Macon, my dad heard someone over say,
Uh-huh.
"Oh, it's going to be two Bartow County teams. That won't be any good, and we won't have anybody here."
Could not.
We had a packed house, of course.
Standing room only.
They had no idea,
They-
did they,
No.
of the
No.
rivalry. People would probably have crawled down there if they couldn't drive.
It was walking out on that court, and it was like, oh my God.
The
You know,
noise,
the
the
noise.
noise.
And it was an old
Auditorium.
auditorium, yeah, and they laid the
It
floors
wasn't a
down,
real
and
nice
it was-
gym, like beautiful
Oh, no,
floors. and
They
We
laid
didn't
the
have clear backboards. They're white during the whole time we're playing. At first they were square a long time ago,
Yeah,
but then they went to the half moon, mostly for us, didn't they? The half
I'm
thing.
not sure, but I know
I
that
think
they
so.
were square, so. But it was,
The noise.
it was the noise there, and it was
Noise.
just a game that was do or die, I think, for both teams.
Yes.
You know, and it was hard fought. It was very hard
It
fought.
was.
Well, actually, the score for the final game was 39-37, and the two previous scores were virtually almost the same thing.
Wow.
So it was close, but you know, when you win, you win.
That's
Right.
right. That's right.
Doesn't matter if you win by 2 or 10.
That's right.
A
That
win's a
final
win.
score.
But it was won in the last seconds.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes,
So it
it
came
was.
down to the last seconds.
Won the last seconds.
That tense. And I imagine the gym erupted
Oh, it was
Oh.
at the end.
the roar.
Yeah. I'm surprised we didn't kill each other.
I
You know,
know.
everybody falling and not, you know, everybody just coming on
They ran
the
it was
court.
like you'd see on TV.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, you know,
wow.
in a football game where they
It
came out on the court.
It was
yeah.
wonderful. And it was just coming back even into town
The next day.
the next day. You know, you don't realize how excited people are for this team.
Yeah.
You know, what we've done. We won a state championship, and it's like,
It was maybe like the first one
Yeah.
I believe
Cartersville
it was
ever
the first
won.
one
Yes,
that
it
Cartersville
was.
ever
It was
won.
just one.
yeah. I really
And,
think
and, and girls did it.
Yes.
Yes,
Girl
yes.
power.
Girl power.
Yes, yes.
And
yes.
after we came back, like there was a carpet mill that had us come up there. You know, carpet was real big then, the carpet industry, and they had us come up there and they gave us all a sweater, a wool sweater with a basketball on it. And we went to the Braeburn Hotel and had a lunch one day for somebody had for us.
Elks lunch. Didn't we go to the
Right.
Elks lunch?
Yeah,
We
Henry
had
set
lunch.
that up.
So
Mom
y'all
and
were
Dad.
just local
it
celebrities,
was like-
weren't you? Well, really, regional celebrities.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and justifiably so. That was really a big deal back
I
then.
probably put Cartersville on the map sports-wise. I
For a
really
while,
did think
yeah.
that, really.
Yeah.
Well, I think so, especially when you talked about Macon saying they didn't think anybody would be there. I
Yes.
think it probably dawned on them when they saw the turnout that this was a place that was passionate for sports.
Right.
So I think you're right. I think that probably branded that in a lot of people's minds.
Well, I think too, Cass never, and I don't say this against, but they were never great at football coming up. They just never were. So they focused on their basketball. They
Yes.
had great players.
They
You know,
had a lot of pride in their
they
basketball.
did,
I
they
have
did.
relatives that played basketball at Cass that predated y'all's
Right.
era teams, and basketball was always something
Yes.
that was important to them.
Right.
It was easier to field a team. It was easier to afford a team
Right.
for that. So you got your best athletes
Right.
playing that
They,
there.
they excelled there.
Right.
You know, that was theirs.
So y'all were highly celebrated then, and you talked a little bit about that. I'd like to talk a little bit just about hurricane pride in that. We talked about Cass being worthy opponents and being in Bartow County, but there is something special about being a Purple Hurricane.
Right.
And you all are here. I know you wanted to mention that a little bit. What is your, are you still kind of involved in some things or part of the?
I enjoy, you know, excuse me, I do a lot of the football games. And I've come to the basketball games. They are amazing, some of these girls, to watch them play. There was a little girl, and I think her last name was Kirby. I mean, she couldn't have been 4'10", but she could handle that ball, and she could shoot, and I was just, she was just worth coming to watch play. There was one time Donna Ennis asked, I think it was Martha, my sister Martha and myself, and there was somebody else to come speak to this team because they were either going to state or they were up for region finals. And just to tell them how great it was and what a good feeling it was, and even today, and I think they were surprised we walked in. We didn't walk in with a cane and a wheelchair because this has been like maybe 10 years ago. But, that's part of it too. But I do enjoy the football, and I do come to a few games, not a lot, but
Right.
but they're still all very they're good, they're enthusiastic, the fans are, and they play a good game.
Right. I think there's a lot to be said for the heritage that is here. And I'm thrilled that you all got to come back and talk to
Yeah.
the women today because it's changed so much. It's changed so much for them, and it's nice to know that that they can be mentored in that way and be inspired by you guys because you inspire me. I think it's awesome.
In our minds, we could still play, but not physically.
let me say that we'll tell this little bitty story about Trey Gaines. I volunteered at the archives, and Trey's over, and he was, I knew this exhibit was coming. I was leaving that day from volunteering, and he said, "Cherry, have you got a minute? And have you got a second?" And I said, "Yeah." There were several of them that worked there. And he said, "Well, I've got more than just a second." And I said, "Yes, Trey, I've got more than just. Well, can you sit down for a little while?" And I thought, "Oh, he tells me I can't come back, probably." Well, he brought that up about being on the state team, and he just thought that was great, blah, blah, blah. He said, "Do you still keep in touch with?" I said, "Oh, yeah, there's a lot of us around." And I said, the starters, the first six, we're still around and are good friends. He said, "Well, do you think y'all could get a game together?" And I looked around I said, "Are you talking to me?" He said, "Well, maybe you and Cass could play just for about 20 minutes. And I thought, "Trey, have you lost your mind?" And I said, he said, "Well, just ask him." I said, "Trey." He said, "No, just ask him." Well, I asked a few, and, Glenda Harris, she said, "Well, I can't even see. I can't raise my arm. I can't do this." I think Diana probably would be the only one, and Susie McDaniel Millwood. She could do it. And I thought, don't even go there.
No.
I said, I wouldn't.
I might have thought about it, but I wouldn't want to ruin my reputation. No way.
So I told Trey, I said, you can forget that.
Yeah,
We
that's
are
not
doing
going to
that.
happen. Maybe we could walk through a play.
But I do think it's going to be a great exhibition. I hope people go to it. I encourage them to go see it. They've worked very
I think
hard
so
on
too.
this.
I think it's great to share that, like we were talking about the team aspect.
Well, you have the community support here.
Oh,
The
gosh.
community support here for Cartersville High School is out the kazoo.
It is. It is. And I think that's one reason that they've been able to build such a tradition is that there is such broad community support for not just sports, but academics, for a lot of different
Right.
things, but that they are always seeking the best for their students. They always are trying to give them a future. And nowadays, thankfully for Title IX, you now can do that for women.
Right.
So there's an opportunity. I'm not so sure that some of y'all wouldn't have had a scholarship years ago.
I would have loved to play in college basketball.
Wouldn't that have been great?
And pro.
Yeah.
Don't stop there.
Yeah,
keep on
yeah.
going.
Now we
Oh,
have women's pro teams.
Oh, man,
So,
they're awesome.
And so I follow those as well, and I may not be necessarily watching all their games, but I'm always advocating for them to get equal pay,
Right.
and that for them to get a broader fan base. So every time you see someone that comes along, like UConn, that's undefeated teams, and you see these women coming off of there, and you think, I hope that's going to be the next superstar, so that we can have, Michael Jordan for women's basketball that can then make that be that kind of sport for them. So.
I think,
Diana and I followed Tennessee till Pat.
Oh, yes. Tennessee was
Tennessee
a powerhouse.
They were.
Powerhouse. And see, y'all were close by. You might have gone up there and been
I
playing
watched
there.
every week.
Yeah,
Well,
I watched
most of the games when they were on television. You could see more watching it
Right,
at home.
right.
You
You
can't
get
be
them,
in
you
there.
can't get.
Right. And I went to Georgia. I watched a lot of Georgia women's basketball. But we did, not long after Title IX, I know Erin Cook Owen
Right.
got a scholarship to go to Tech. She was really tall, like you talked about, and she was one of the first. And there have been folks from Cass and Cartersville, girls that have gone and received basketball scholarships since that time. So it's a great thing to see that basketball and other women's sports can then give these young girls a great future going forward.
And they do, and I think that's, now you can get a scholarship, even cheerleading, but that's a sport now.
Right.
It didn't used to be what they considered a sport, but
Right.
now it is. So, there's so many areas women can go into now,
Right.
and
And
full ride. Uh-huh.
And I think it's wonderful. And that they're getting more equal every time. So that's a great thing, especially when you see the young girls coming up, the little ones coming up, and that they can get as excited about playing softball or basketball as they can about the next dress they're going to buy.
Right.
So that's a great feeling for me. I like seeing them being well
The
run.
recreation department, and they have a good program with starting them off in basketball, soccer, and football. Sometimes I think they're too young, but yet you get a feel for them. They get a feel like what they really are good or what they really enjoy doing. And I've watched several of the little games, and it's amazing how some of them can handle a ball, how they can kick a ball, how they can run with the ball.
I've watched seventh graders. They're good on handling the ball. They're not very good on shooting.
Yeah, right.
Or the
But
teams
that
I
comes.
saw.
But they can
handle
the
that
ball
ball.
pretty good.
But that's the biggest part, really. I mean, learning that first
Right.
at ball handling before you learn to shoot. That
Right.
shooting's just practice.
Right.
And it's great to see that girls have a good feeling about that. They're coming into this in a whole new way now, in that their heroes, their images are much more positive towards that, I think. So you see girls that like being physically active, they like being healthy, they like moving and running and jumping and being physical. So that's a great thing. Well, let's look at some, before we close, before we go, I've really enjoyed talking to you all. I know there's
You've been
some
great pulling everything,
well,
once we get started, but then you have to come back in. So
yes,
we
yes.
thank
And
you
I'm
for that.
sure there's something that we didn't get to hit on. Is there anything, though, that you all want to mention that we might not have touched on? It doesn't matter how far afield it is. I know you all are still friends. You still get together. Y'all talked about some of this, and we've got some memorabilia we're going to try to insert in different portions of this. But is there anything else y'all want to add that we might not have touched on that you consider important?
Well, I remember when I first became a member of the team, my freshman year, was the uniforms.
Oh, let's talk about uniforms some.
And they were in a cardboard box in the dressing room. And these were the purple ones that we had. And they were, I don't know how, well, they were old.
They were old.
I mean, at least 5 years old, maybe older than that. And the striped socks, you remember
gosh.
those?
Yeah.
Some of them had holes in them. Mine were ripped. I had to go through the box to find a pair that fit, and they were ultra short. I mean, I'd call them close to Daisy Duke shorts.
Oh, yeah, the bottoms, oh
The
my
bottoms,
gosh.
you know, and my mother had, thank goodness she was a seamstress, but she had to work on them, you know, and sew up rips and tears and mend and.
Yeah.
When I was a freshman, the day I got my uniform, I was elated. I took off to town. My parents owned a dime store and took off down there, and I had this basketball uniform, and I ran in there. And my mother looked at that and she said, "Oh my gosh, it's got patches all over it." But it didn't matter to me because I was on the team.
Right.
But later on, and I don't know what year because I was a year ahead of Jan, later on my dad got with the coaches of Cartersville High School and offered and did buy uniforms with no profit for him. And we got new
Them
uniforms.
the white ones.
Well, I don't know what year. I mean, that was my freshman year,
Yeah.
so we probably started my sophomore year or junior year.
Okay.
And, you know, we had purple uniforms and white, you
We
say?
had white.
I don't remember
Tops
those.
around.
We switched the
Yeah,
tops
you should switch
around.
the
But
tops
the
around.
shoes that we wore were the old Converse cloth, not your fancy,
Yeah,
smancy,
I know.
good for your feet shoes you can get now. I mean,
We had,
we had no support in our
Did you
feet.
have like the old high tops? Is that
oh,
what y'all
yeah,
wore?
yeah.
It-
We also had warm-ups. Those were the greatest things because, see, my whole 4 years, females could not wear slacks. You had to wear skirts.
That's right.
So we got to wear these gold warm-ups. Now, we had those the whole time I was
Yes,
in
we
school.
did.
Well, I got them when I was a freshman. And they had a zipper on the side, and they were old gold. They looked great. And, of course, me being short, I'm either going to bunch up. I mean, they didn't fit us. You know, you
they
just
don't
got
fit.
one.
You just got to get one.
But it was
long.
your
Mine
chance
were
to,
too short.
to wear pants. You got to wear the pants.
Got to wear
You
them.
got to wear the pants.
Well,
Right.
if we didn't, we had to go in there and take off those uniforms and put on our clothes. We had to do that for a while.
I didn't like bringing clothes anyway.
I
know.
didn't.
No.
You know, you couldn't take a shower or anything. Your hair was wet, and your makeup was running down your face.
Yeah, so they didn't want
What
to-
makeup? We didn't use a lot of it.
Well, it's interesting though because I think nowadays people don't realize how much that's changed because you've got uniforms now for everything, and a lot of the high-powered teams that are winning teams, they get
Get new
endorsement
uniforms.
forms and they get new
Yeah.
uniforms every year practically. And they're quite expensive now. You've got things, fabrics that breathe, and you've got Under Armour, and you've got things that wick away moisture, and you didn't have anything like
No.
that.
And we always had to keep our shirts tucked in.
Yes.
Our shirts
Yeah.
always had to be tucked into our
Yeah,
shorts.
right.
And I thought, you know, that was just norm. And,
Yeah.
you know, you'd see these other teams, and I thought, oh, how sloppy. You know,
Yeah.
but we always did that. That was one of our things. And another thing I think, and I'm going to throw this in, because I don't know how much time we have left, that we were talking about, we were so excited when we were in region and state, we got little gold basketballs. And we thought we were just, you know, it was just awesome. Well, now I have this football player's ring, and it's like, what is the difference here? You know, what is the difference? And they're gorgeous, they're big, but I bet a lot of them are in drawers.
Yes.
Yeah, not being worn.
Not
or
being worn, but
celebrated.
they are. I mean, it's something good for them to have. It shows that, you know, they were on a state team and they won state,
Right.
and it was hard work, just like the little basketballs for us. It was hard work, and I was surprised when we got them. I had no idea,
Right.
no idea.
And so, and I know what you mean. There becomes, well, and we can go back to your trophy too. You can see that the trophies of that era are much more smaller,
right.
more subdued. The ones now, they're huge. They're taller than I am, and you get these gigantic state championship things are very elaborate
Right,
ones. If
right.
they're not huge, they're elaborate. So it's quite a change. Quite a change.
And you know,
Well-
that's good. It's just
Well,
things change.
didn't we get when we won state from the Georgia High School Association a silver basketball?
Could have.
as all the players as the state champions, a silver one, and I think somebody in the community got together and got those gold
Go
ones,
as
didn't
far
they?
as
Was
could have
it?
been. Could have been.
Which I can't remember.
Well, see, more community
More
support,
support.
more ways to
Right.
recognize you all and
Right.
to honor you all for what you did. Y'all were probably the sweethearts of Cartersville for quite some time.
I always felt like Coach Reeves wished he'd have had a boy as they won one too.
Instead of the girls winning, no.
I mean, I think
don't
he was
know.
proud of us, but I think that was a kind of a
was.
regret
He
when,
was.
when we talked about it. I talked to him about it one time. He said, "Yeah, that would be pretty good." You know?
Well, that's changed a lot too now, though, and I think
Right.
that's great. I think that coaches, male and female, now have as
Oh.
much pride in the female athletes as they do in the male, and you see that changing a lot. And I love seeing that we're seeing more female coaches too, moving
Oh,
into
there's
the,
some awesome college female coaches.
Yeah.
absolutely
Basketball.
and slowly but surely they're going into the pro leagues, and
Right.
some of them. I know it's the rare few, but they're crossing over into the male sports as well. So
Right.
we'll see more of that as we go forward. So that's just an exciting thing to see.
It
And
is,
it
it
all
is.
starts right here in your own community, when you start in your own little teams right here. Well, thanks so much for everything today,
Yeah,
you
thank
all.
you.
We
Thank
enjoyed
you.
it.
We
Thank you
feel,
for
we feel
inviting
like we
us.
were special.
Well, you are special. You are special, and
Oh,
it's
well.
such an honor to be here and talk with you all today and learn what it takes to be a champion.
Oh,
And we
thank
will
you.
add that they still have our championship banner up in the gym.
Right,
Yeah.
it's right over there in that corner. We'll make sure
We're
they
just
get a photo.
proud. I was so proud to see that when I came to some local games. I thought, oh, gee.
They still
Yes.
have that. They still have that. But real quickly, do y'all remember Percy Bray?
Yes, I was
Oh,
going to
Percy
mention
Bray,
him.
Percy.
he was a little. I
He
don't
was
know
an
if
attorney.
He
He
was
was
an
an
attorney.
attorney.
He came to every home game dressed in his suit, took his folding chair and put it right by
Our team.
our,
Okay.
right there.
Oh,
He had
great.
always brought a box of Whitman samplers, and after the game, we always knew we were going to
That's
have
right.
that. But he loved this team now. But he was the greatest. He was the greatest supporter that there
He
was.
was the super fan.
He was. He was.
Percy
and we
Bray.
loved him seeing him sit there. It was
He was
like,
a bachelor.
He was a bachelor.
He
It
took
was.
me out for a steak one night.
So you all were the sweethearts.
And,
Yeah,
and,
I
at
think
that,
so.
and at that time, Bill Johnson's was the
That was where
the
we went.
hangout,
We went to the
and
state.
if any of the team came in there and he was in there, he would buy their meal.
Yeah.
Oh,
He was just. You talk about a devoted
Yeah,
fan.
he was a
He
devoted
loved the
fan.
game, and I just think he loved the team in general. So,
well, that's
Of course, I
wonderful.
don't know. How old do you think he was then? See, we were like, let's see, we're like 16.
I was,
I
I
was
bet he was in
17,
his
so.
40s, but
And
we,
we
thought he was about
80.
80.
how did he get here? Yeah, I mean, you
I
know,
bet he
but-
wasn't that all that
No,
old,
no,
you
but it
know.
was just
I
our
don't even know
perception of
anybody
it.
that knows him. You know, there's very few of us probably that
Yeah,
remember him.
Yeah, but it was just.
So
that was one thing that I
we do
always
remember
thought.
you, Mr. Bray.
And the Whitman sampler.
And the Whitman sample.
I think we need to have a box of Whitman
Yeah.
samplers by y'all's trophy.
That's
Oh,
right.
you're sweet. I'll
A
eat the
box,
candy and I'll
anyway.
bring the box over and y'all can put it in there.
That's right.
Yeah. One thing we did forget that we wrote a song on the way back to Cartersville after winning the state championship. And I guess I've been elected to read this song. I'm not going to sing it, and neither are any of my two cohorts. So it was way down in Macon, Georgia, where all the teams go. There went a little team by the names of Canes That Blow. They had to play a team that wasn't very fast, who went by the name of Consolidated Cass. We beat them to a pulp and really showed our stuff. They tried to beat us back, but weren't good enough. Coach Reeves might be small, but to all of us, he was 10 feet tall. And that was our theme song.
Well, thanks
Well, thank
so
you.
much.
Can I say one thing? in closing?
Yes, come on. Yes,
I want to
absolutely.
tell Glenda and Pat,
Oh,
we
yes.
miss them tremendously.
And Janie.
And Janie.
And Janie.
Janie.
And
Yes,
Glenda,
Glenda,
Janie.
Pat, and Janie,
Janie.
you should have been here.
Right. Now, we
We
told
miss
all the
you.
stories on
We-
y'all, so
I
you
know.
can't come back and tell
That's
any
right.
This is done.
That's
Oh,
right.
we're
That's
finished.
over and done with. No stories can pass from here. You had your shot. But thanks so much.
Pat,
Thank you.
Janie, yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you,
Thank
yes.
you.